Hey, welcome to Red River Podcast. Tom Ryan, man, just checked out your movie. I wanted to get it nice and fresh before we did this. And that's why you're on. So, you emailed me.
Yeah,
You are a film director, obviously, because you just put together a 2.5 hour fucking movie. So, what's up, man? Welcome.
thank you. Thank you, Sam. Thanks very much. I appreciate the opportunity to come on.
Yeah, man. I mean, we're just morons talking about movies, music, and pop culture. So,
My
man,
favorite
okay.
subjects.
For sure. So we love anthologies, and I keep saying we because I'm waiting for Brian to sign on. I have no idea where the fuck he is.
Yeah, no problem.
I figured we'll start without him. We love anthologies just like everything, and watching. So what is the theater? So the movie's called Return to Theater of Terror.
Right, Richard.
But I
Yeah.
I I know nothing about you, right?
Okay.
So this is a getting to know you episode basically because I'm very curious. So why is it called Return? Did I miss the first one?
Yeah, the first one was 2019 release called The Theater of Terror.
Okay, so it was like the same idea and stuff, right?
Yep, same idea. Four short stories in a movie theater.
Okay, very
Yeah.
cool. And so this one has four short stories. Is there like basically it's the same thing, just four different stories? Because I almost
Right.
I'm an idiot. I should have asked about the first one, but I didn't notice because so the company is called Theater of Terror, right?
That's right. Yes. Yeah. We're called Theater of Terror. It's LLC, and we're a production company, and we made many different movies. Day Nine, Faces, Wrapped. Um, but when it came to the anthology, we decided to call it The Theater of Terror after the production company, and it was kind of fitting for
Well
considering the
said.
plot. And yeah,
Yeah, and because in my head, I for some reason I didn't notice. You sent me like the link to the movie, and I did notice that it said return and stuff. But like I said, we love anthology movies, and the one thing that I noticed about the four short stories is that for people that I'm gonna guess that are from a similar age like us, it had like a bunch of nods to a bunch of stuff.
sure.
Do you want to break down the stories? Like, I don't want to give too much away of
Nah.
them, but like, basically a kid goes into a movie theater and then, the projection shows them some movies. The first one, is a subject that I think all of us really love. Like, I love a good time hop story. I love a good time machine story, time travel, and it's done in black and white. So if you
That
just want to
black
talk
and
about,
white looked magnificent too. It looks
Yeah,
so
thank
crisp.
you,
Yeah.
thank you. Yeah, that's Soothsayer. Was kind of this really a film that I kind of always wanted to make. I grew up on Universal monster movies. Um, Loved the backdrops, the settings, the dramatic acting, the music, the hits, right? All that stuff was just so appealing about those films. And so when we set out to do this anthology, I knew that one of the films I wanted to do was going to be a black and white throwback. And I had been reading a collection of short stories by an author named C.M. Eddy Jr. And he was very good friends with Harry Houdini. And he had written a collection of short science fiction stories that I read while I was on vacation in Florida for a week. And I was so inspired by these stories that on the plane ride home, I had my laptop with me. I opened it up and I wrote Soothsayer. Um, the challenging thing with Soothsayer was basically the time machine, um, which we built and designed at a production meeting. Kind of brainstormed that idea and just kind of sketched it out. We built it, so that was incredibly challenging. But all those pieces that we put together were really to just lay that framework and create that world of that old dramatic Hollywood black and white sci-fi fun Saturday afternoon type film. Um, and so that's kind of the story behind Soothsayer and the inspiration behind it. And I'm
yeah,
glad that you guys enjoyed it. Yeah.
yeah, well, because you never know, it's like, listen, we're all like horror fans, we're all anthology fans, and sometimes you don't know what you're getting into. Like, growing up renting videos and just Like I always say, you read the synopsis of a good horror movie or a good thriller, and everything sounds good. It's
Yeah.
like, holy shit, like teens go into the woods and get killed. Like, yeah, sign me up. And, so you never know what you're getting. And, I was just texting Brian the whole time I'm watching it, going like, this is actually really fucking good. This is like, like I don't everything, like it was directed well, it was acted well, it was executed. And the first one, like I said, everything that you just mentioned, it does have that homage to that, and the acting for sure. And so that's a great way to kick it off. So let's just go through the movie a little bit there, and then we'll get kind of like a backstory on you. So that's like the first story. The second story, what I really love too is we're all fans of body horror. And anytime there's something wrong with you physically, that's
Mhm.
an issue. And it's a pretty scary thing because I know I'm never going to time travel. I know I'm probably never going to run into Michael Myers anywhere. But,
Right.
if you get a splinter, maybe your foot might get infected. And I'm going to ask you, that splinter looked like somebody actually put it in his fucking foot. Was that a real
Yeah.
splint?
It was a real splinter. It was a
Yeah.
real splinter.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. Just because of some stuff contractually, we couldn't stick it in his foot. But no, in all honesty, that's Jim Thalman, and he's a hell of an actor and a hell of a trooper. And if getting a better performance by jamming a splinter in his foot would have worked, I'm sure he would have insisted on doing it. But no, that was awesome effects by an effects artist named Beatrice Sniper, who put that in his foot. And yeah, it's what's so funny is that that's one of the most cringeworthy scenes in the film, is when you just see the splinter in his foot. I think because so many people have experienced that at some point,
Yeah.
right? So yeah, kind of yanking that out of your foot gives everybody that familiar feeling. And I think that really just starts off the film on that journey through, like you were describing, the body horror that actually follows.
And I feel like it's one of the, like, out of the four, it might be the most like cinematic, like long, like it just seems like the one that could almost have been like a full movie.
Yeah.
It was just great, man. Like I'm gonna put links up to this stuff so people could watch it. I know you're doing some screenings, but like,
Yeah.
for obviously someone who's limited with a budget or whatever you could do, like I really fucking think you did great. Langan, you have anything on Splinter?
Well, I did. Well, not. It's just a question that came to me. Choosing to do an anthology, because I watched a documentary about the history of anthologies called Tales of the Uncanny, I found. And they
Cool.
brought up an interesting point that at a certain point, like before the 80s, after the Hammer and Amicus, I think
Hmm.
they used to do a lot of those, but it was expensive for studios to do anthologies because they had to have different. I never thought of it like you have to have different sets constructed for
Sure.
versus the regular picture that you could have even in one scene or something if you wrote it that way.
Sure.
So taking on an anthology is very ambitious of you. Like, were you just like always wanted to do one? Like, is that like your desire to do one? Is it what do you find that more challenging than be doing a regular film or?
Yeah. So I was speaking to Sam a little earlier about our first anthology was titled The Theater of Terror. We did that one in 2019. That was a film that we did following up. I had done a feature film called Faces back in 2014. And then I followed that up by doing a short film. And I had this desire to do so many different things. And I was like, oh, I want to do a creature feature. I want to do a werewolf movie. I want to do an alien movie. I want to do dolls. I want to do, and there was all this different stuff I wanted to do. And so a friend and colleague of mine named Russell Hackett brought me a story called The Bookworm. And it was a short story. It wasn't really a script. It was more in a short story format. And he said, I think we can make a feature film out of this. And so I looked at it and I really loved the story, but I thought it was much smaller than a feature film. It just reminded me of these old Creep Show type episodes or Tales from the Crypt. And I said, I think we should do this, but as a short film. And then I said, because I want to do this as well, and I want to do this. And I said, why don't we do an anthology? And so I wrote a screenplay for Bookworm, and then I went out and wrote three more shorts: The Gift, about a doll, Abducted, which was about alien visitors, and Endangered, which was about a werewolf. And we did that first anthology, and it was such a great experience as an independent filmmaker because the feature that I had done, Faces, was about, I think it was 17 days on set, and it was just such a big project and just so many people involved, and so much focus on that one film and that one story, and it was just kind of exciting to know that we could do all these different stories with all these different actors and all this different subject matter, and it is an enormous outing, and a lot of responsibility and a lot of production. But the way I always approach the anthologies is very grounded, where I said, these are the four movies that we want to make. How much money could we raise to start making these movies? And let's take this as one film at a time, expecting that if we do not complete all four films and complete this anthology, at least we have successfully made a couple of really great short films. And that's the way that we always approach it. So we'd make all the films, and then at the end of it, I'd say, do we have enough to make the wraparound story? We would then add the wraparound story. We always had that in mind, but it was really a step-by-step process where we knew this might get out of hand, or this might get a beyond our control, where we could make this happen. And so let's just try to finish one at a time. And we did the same thing with the sequel anthology. We came out with those four stories. We tried to raise $20,000 for the entire production. I think we only raised like 13, and we just got to work and started making them. And then I put my own money in, and we had some other people come in and contribute a few dollars that helped us out. But it was always with that intention to build it piece by piece. And in a perfect world, we finished the whole thing and we were able to get the anthology done. And but if Murphy's Law applies, then we just wind up getting a collection of short films that we could at least share individually. And so luckily enough, we were able to finish it, and we were happy about that because we think that's how it should be seen as an anthology.
And where could I watch the first one?
The first one is on Amazon Prime. It's on Tubi.
Okay.
Yeah,
Love Tubi.
you could check it out on Tubi. Type in the theater. I'm not sure how easy it is to search it out just by searching it. I know I've always had problems with Amazon. Like, you have to type my name, the name of the movie, independent film, like, just to bring it up. They'll show you
Yeah.
every other thing that starts with the letter of my movie before they show you my exact title. So
Hey, listen, I don't want to flex on the audience here, but I'm pretty good on the internet, so I'll figure it out for sure.
yeah.
Yeah, so and it's funny to hear you talk about, the shorts. We had on a friend of ours, Frank Sabatella, that did a bunch of shorts as well. And that is the thing. Like, I don't know much about the shorts world. I would imagine putting out the anthology is, like you said, like the goal and stuff. But like, what is the universe of short movies? Like, I feel like, do people pay attention to it? Do you find
Yeah.
it, it's, I guess, like, I play music, so I would imagine maybe it's like putting out an EP or a single.
Yeah, short films are usually calling cards. They're usually festivals love short films, especially within a certain time frame. Our short films are actually longer than the ideal time frame of a short film for a festival. But that's usually where they find their home. There's another outlet called Shorts TV, Shorts HD TV, and they actually distribute short films. They show them all over Europe and South America and in the United States. I'm not sure if I think it is also available in the U.S., but I know it's available in the U.K. I've actually sold short films to them in the past. So there's a home for short films. They're more, I think, I like to do them kind of as calling cards, and I always like to think that all my short stories are kind of worthy of a pitch for a feature. But as I said before about Bookworm, some of them are kind of built to be shorts as well. But yeah, in the case of an anthology, you hope that you finish it, because I do believe that these belong in the form of a feature. And yeah, in short form, it's sometimes harder to get more eyes on them because there's tons of short films out now. There's really creative ones. If you just go on YouTube Shorts, you can find a million of them. But
Yeah.
they kind of get lost in the shuffle, I think.
Yeah, that's the thing about technology now. It's just easier to be found, harder to be seen for sure,
Yeah.
because everyone's doing it. And but you know, the creativity that everyone has is great. And it's funny you said you know, your writing should be, you know, it should be considered for like long form, because I feel that way about all four of these. So the third story is Haunted, which is a really cool idea because it's like the crossing of both worlds, and there's nothing really to give away. You know, within the first like minute or so, it's like you have essentially like a haunted house or something going on in the first part, and then you have this like, you know, kind of like a crook type, you know, like a psychic or whatever the hell he is, like a
Yeah. Con
paranormal
man,
guy.
right? Right.
Yeah, comment. And then they cross paths, and it's as it's happening, I was just like, oh shit, like this seems like, you know, like I feel like I could have seen this episode on like Tales from the Crypt, you know, like it's
Yeah,
just
yeah.
very much so. So I mean, anything you want to say about Haunted?
Haunted is really inspired by Kolchak the Night Stalker. And there's a few Easter eggs in it too that kind of reference the show. Uh, um, but yeah, I've always wanted to do a story about a ghost story. And this was a fun way to do it where it wasn't your typical ghost story. And I used to host a podcast called True Ghost Stories. And I was always, we kind of played good cop, bad cop. I was the skeptic, and then my partner was the believer. And we would always kind of have these ghost hunters on and witnesses to paranormal activities, and we would interview them. And while I understood that the lifeblood of our podcast was people that believe in ghosts, so you had to be very careful about being too skeptical because you want people to listen into your show and listen to what they believe in. But at the same time, I used to really just kind of poke into the specific ideas of what it would be like to experience a haunting. And so when we did this this film, I thought it'd be fun to get that man and kind of show the guy that would prey on people that very easily want to believe this type of thing, and how easy it is to kind of get paid for something like that, especially when you're dealing with old ladies that are very superstitious or religious. So that was a lot of fun. And the character Brett Eidman played the lead character of Carl McGavin, who's named after the actor Darren McGavin that played Kolchak. Yeah, that was a fun one. I got to work with some amazing actors that I've been dying to work with for a long time. Jen Plotsky, Brett was another one. Gareth Tidball was another one. We introduced young Emma Waldron. That was her first independent film, and that's just a great story in and of itself, how we got to work with that young lady. So that was a fun one.
Yeah, I
You
once
mentioned,
again.
I'm sorry.
Oh no, no, I was just
Uh,
gonna give him his props on the writing. I think you're a really good writer, because I know you wrote and
Thank you.
directed the whole thing. I think you're a really good director.
Thank you.
Like
Thank you very much.
genuinely, like we're, you know, in the land of like, we had Damien Leone like when Terrifier first came out, and you know, here's a guy that had an eye for effects, great direction, great gore. You know, it's like the independent fucking film is going crazy, and you're, I mean, honestly, I have no idea. Never met you. You emailed me, and I'm like, okay. I'm like, maybe this will be good. Maybe it won't. I have no idea. And I'm pretty blown away. Great writing, great
Oh,
direction.
thanks, man.
So
Thank you.
I'll shut the fuck up and let Brian say something.
I was just gonna say you mentioned Kolchak, and I love that the night. I love that. And that show was never on my radar back in the day, and someone told me to check it out because yeah, obviously Twilight Zone and certain anthology shows I love.
Sure.
We all know those ones, but I never had seen that one. That's a fantastic deep cut of
Yeah.
those shows.
Yeah.
Are
Yeah.
there any other shows that influenced you or
I
something
mean,
that you
all of
grew
them,
up liking?
Twilight Zone, Outer Limits, the Tales from the Dark Side, Amazing Stories, Creep Show, the Trilogy of Terror, Cat's Eye, all that stuff. Loved them all. Loved the whole anthology feel. Um, and again, I just like that you could sit down and watch completely different stories. I really enjoyed Black Mirror on Netflix. I thought that
Oh
was
my
great.
God. Amazing. Amazing.
Yeah, yeah, they had some great, amazing writing on that. So I just love that stuff because again, there's so many different stories and themes and lessons. Watching a Twilight Zone marathon, you watch so many moral lessons and people get their up and comings, and it's so much fun. And what we were trying to capture with this feature was that feeling of, and I'm a huge horror fan, but I also know that there's kind of that world of people that are not horror fans that I want to see my work. And I think an anthology like this, you could appeal to those people that I'm not a horror fan, but I love Jaws. I'm not a horror fan, but I love The Exorcist. I'm not a horror fan, but I watched Twilight Zone. There are a lot of people out there like that, and that they enjoyed this kind of filmmaking. And for me, as I'm a dad as well, and I have a couple of kids. And my son Jack was actually the
In the
star of the
in the
last film,
last one, yeah.
Robot. My daughter was in a film that I made in the previous anthology called The Gift, and I like that I could share these films with them, and that they're still creepy, and that they still have these horror elements and such, but it's not it's great storytelling. Like I said, with most of these other anthologies that I mentioned, most of these have been on television, and they're just things that you can watch with a broader audience. And I'm just trying to make stuff along those lines, because as much as I like some certain niche type films, I also understand that those are not going to be seen as broadly when you're working on these ideas. And these ideas that I
Right.
like make me feel like this is the stuff I loved when I was a kid, and I went to the movies and I put on the television. This is the stuff that I loved watching, that really stole away my imagination. And that's why I have this passion for them.
What did
I
you
think it's
think of the new Twilight Zone? Just curious.
I haven't seen it yet, the Jordan Peele
Yeah,
one, right? I
yeah,
haven't
yeah.
seen it. Was that on Paramount
yeah,
Plus?
Paramount
When it
Plus.
first came out, yeah, yeah, yep.
Yeah,
I don't
because I
think it
don't
got
have
renewed,
Paramount
but
Plus, and I was kind
okay.
of caught in this thing where I'm like getting all these different, because I had just gotten rid of cable, and I started getting all these different Hulu and Netflix,
Hmm.
and then I saw that that was on Paramount Plus, and I was like, let me just wait a little while and see if it goes on one of these other things that
Yeah,
I've
yeah.
gotten.
At
But
a
yeah, I
certain
haven't seen
point,
it. How did you like it?
I was I was kind of lukewarm on it, to be honest with you. I mean, it's tough when you take on that franchise's name. There's a lot
Sure,
of comparison. I mean, you're talking about one of the most timeless, amazing shows that's ever been on. I mean, it
sure.
still holds up episode after episode. So, I wasn't a huge fan. Sam, you liked it, right?
I loved it.
Yeah.
But I mean, just like anything, I think there was like two seasons, so it's like eventually you'll catch a dud. One is going to be amazing.
Sure.
I was definitely in on a lot of them because it was just I don't know, there's something about, a short story, even though they weren't that short, they were like 45, close to an hour, that if something doesn't really work, then there's the next episode and you latch onto that.
Sure.
I think at the end of the day, I'm glad that it exists. And a lot of things that even I don't connect with all the way through, I'm glad they exist because it's like we get more Twilight Zone stuff. And then like I
Right.
feel like Jordan Peele isn't gonna co-sign something that he feels is whack. So like even if he kind of likes the episode or whatever, like so I thought it was a really cool attempt.
Yeah. Yeah. I get
Um
it too. I get it. It's better. It is better to have those things on television than not at all. For sure. Yeah.
yeah,
At least, and the great thing about anthologies, that's always been something that I knew making these anthologies as well. If they don't like this one, they're gonna love the next one. Or if they don't like the
absolutely.
next one, they're probably gonna love, so there's some options.
Yeah, and I feel like, you're doing press and reaching out to people because I feel like you believe in this movie and your writing, which is rightfully so. Like, it's like when you have something that if people gave a chance to, which we did randomly, otherwise I probably who knows, maybe I would never have seen it. You're like,
Sure.
hey, check this out. And it really connected. So, but the last thing, so like your son's in the last one, so
Yeah.
what's it like directing, like your young son, and obviously it's very sci-fi based, and the
Yeah.
movie posters in the room are all sci-fi too. So like, what
Yeah.
was that like?
It was excellent. It was excellent. So much fun. There's such a long story behind Robot and how that movie came to be. But my son, I had actually during COVID, I had actually been doing some a web series called The Chilling Childhood Adventures of Jack and Cody, which play into this anthology
Yeah,
actually. And if you see those on YouTube, you'll see how it all plays right into the anthology. But those two kids, it was a means of us to keep busy during the lockdowns. Cody, his friend Cody lived right around the corner, and his parents are good friends of ours. And we probably decided about probably about 3 weeks to a month in, we were like, we got to get these kids together. This is crazy. They were losing their minds. So they would come over to each other's houses and hang out. And we started, it was kind of the kids' idea to start it. They're like, we want to shoot this little scene. And I did it with them. And I said, why don't we do some more stuff? And we wound up creating this web series out of it that I put all this work, like editing it and special effects and stuff. And it was really funny how into it I got. I had to actually stop myself a few times and say, remember, they're just trying to have fun. You know,
Yeah.
the director and me started coming out. Um, but
I need you to give me real tears.
yes, yes. But the kids both showed me that they were naturals. They were very comfortable. They took direction very easily. And so when my son did his part in Robot, we ran lines at home. He rehearsed. He knew his stuff. He was on the money, and it was just a really exciting and wonderful time to share with them. And there were so many nightmare stories from set that had nothing to do with the actors, just Murphy's Law. We lost power. There was a storm the night before. There was no running water. There was all this crazy stuff we had to deal with on set. Um, and my son was just a trooper through everything. Didn't complain about anything. Didn't, I mean, we were shooting until 2 o'clock on the morning on day two. He never complained. He just asked me once, "Hey, are we almost done, Dad?" And I was like, "Yeah, we're almost there." And he's like, "Okay." I mean, it was so cool. And then to do a science fiction movie, and that one for me was so much fun because my son was playing that little boy that we always saw in the 80s movies, right? It was always like the
Yeah.
Goonies and that kid squad. And like, this is the little kid. And he's the only one that sees the werewolf in the woods. He's trying to warn everybody. And so I wanted him to play that part. And I just thought he nailed it. And it was, for me, it was really like living that experience was me making, that was my personal little ET, me and my son being able to make that together. And so many people continue to remind me when they see it. Number one, not only that they thought he was great in the movie, but number two, they say, you'll always have this with your kid, which is very special for me too, as a dad and as a filmmaker.
I know so Langan down there has a young kid as well, and I think he always tries to show him things that you like. So like what is young Jack, what has he gravitated towards that you've shown him? Because I know Brian, you guys have some disconnect on certain things, but connections on
He's
other things,
hitting
right?
way more. I don't know when he's hitting 12 for some reason. We're like the Nirvana band he's in, and we have movie night every Saturday. We're like locking into it, like a nice area. But for a while, he'd fight me on shit. And like, I don't like that as much as you do. But now it's coming to a good
That's
place. But
good.
yeah, what about you, man?
Yeah, Jack he's a huge Marvel movie fan. When he was little, I showed him the original Spider-Man movies with Tobey Maguire, and it was like boom, Spider-Man pajamas, Spider-Man pillowcase, Spider-Man, everything became Spider-Man after that. Absolutely love Spider-Man. Watched all the Marvel movies. I had him watch all the Star Wars movies. Younger, he was very like a sponge with all this stuff. He really enjoyed a lot of it. He likes drawing. Um, we watch Mandalorian together now. But he's also kind of into his own stuff, like stuff that I'm not into, like Fortnite and these other video games. And now he's beyond Fortnite now. Now he's got the Oculus. So
Oculus is crazy.
yeah, yeah, that's his world. Like he does all that stuff. And then I'll
I
say,
bought
hey,
one
you,
for
you
my
want to come
son,
and
and he
watch?
never uses it.
He
I'm
doesn't use
sorry.
it.
He doesn't use it. I use it.
You
Yeah.
See,
Yeah,
I was using it a few times too, but I said this is really dangerous because number
Yeah.
one, I'm gonna like not let him use it anymore. I'll be using it all the time.
Yeah.
And I could just see like I don't think he's got any of the really expensive high tech games that you could play. Like he's
Yeah.
playing the gorilla thing or whatever, and
Sure. Sure.
it's all cool. But like a buddy of mine's got some of the Star Wars stuff for the Oculus, which he told me is amazing. It's just amazing. I think it would be very dangerous for me. Like I would stop making movies and just play Oculus all day.
yeah,
That
Yeah,
it's
would.
my friend says this, when his son plays, he's like, dude, I sometimes I gotta remind him to like go to the bathroom. Like, yo, like tap him on the shoulder, like, yo, it's been like 3 hours. Let's go take a
yeah,
Yeah.
piss or something.
anytime I jump on that thing, like, I don't use it as much because it like fucks up my equilibrium sometimes. Like I'm
Yeah,
just like,
made me
man, I'm like,
Yeah.
nauseous once, bro.
yeah, it's like mad fucking yeah. You guys remember the anthology movie Nightmare or Nightmares
Yes.
with
Yes.
Emilio Estevez?
Yes.
Like where he's
Oh
playing the video
shit.
game and the video game comes out, the bishop or
Yeah.
whatever. Yo, that every time I think of Oculus, I think of like that fucking
Right.
because he goes like young Emilio Estevez goes and he's like beating this game and then the game comes to life and he's
Yeah.
fucking doesn't end
There
well
was a
for
lot
him.
of horror like that. And then the lawnmower man and whatnot. Like,
Yeah.
remember how
Oh
like
yeah.
virtual
The Lawnmower
reality is
Man's
going to be the
great.
shit, and that stuff was so whack looking when you look at it. And you're like, wow.
Right.
But back then we were like, holy
Oh,
shit.
absolutely.
Oh
But
yeah.
so we all have DNA and we all have influences, like I said, when I write music, my influences just come out. So what's in your DNA? Like what made you want to start making movies? What are some things that just affected you in a way that you're like, this is what I want to do forever?
So what really got me into movies was um, probably like Ray Harryhausen and watching Sinbad and watching Jason and
Clash of
the
the Titans.
Argonauts and watching King Kong. And because as a kid, it was like, how are they doing that? And then to find out that they were basically moving toys around and moving their arms and legs and taking pictures of them. I'm like, they get to play with toys for a living. Like, this is great, right? You're basically they're basically playing with toys and filming it and saying this is our story. And that's what I would sit in my room with my toys and I'd have my story of what was going on. And so I saw it was it was like the making of I think I saw the making of The Empire Strikes Back and Star Wars. And I saw them moving the tauntauns and the blue screens and the ships and the firecrackers. And I was just blown away by looking at that. And then they cut over and they show you the scene in the film. And I was so blown away because I always had a wild imagination, and I just said, "This is amazing that this is how they make this stuff happen." And I was just always kind of drawn to movies, Universal monster movies, and I used to watch a lot of westerns and war movies with my dad when I was a kid. That just had a lot of great acting and great stories and things that would make you think a lot. And I that was something that I enjoy about movies, is movies that make you think. And as much as I like a movie that is, kind of brainless, like Friday the 13th, part 15 or whatever, where you just know it's just going to be gore and dummies getting killed and cool kills and scenarios like that. It's always those movies that kind of make you sit there when the credits are rolling and you're like, God, that's so screwed up.
Hell yeah. Yeah.
Those are the movies that always touch me, are like, you're laying in bed at night and you're going, and if that guy had only done this, his wife would have lived. Like,
Yeah.
whatever it is. And so I grew up on a lot of stuff like that. And people say, what's your favorite? Who's your favorite director? What was your favorite movie? And I just can't answer those questions because it's this combination of
Yeah.
everything.
I could never. Yeah.
Yeah, it's
I could
just a
get 100.
combination.
Do you
Right.
remember the first film that scared you?
It was probably something like something from the 70s that was on television. And what's that movie? Oh gosh, I should Google it real quick. With Ernest Borgnine and William Shatner. Uh,
Wow.
Oh, the satanic one,
yeah,
right?
there was something I remember about that
Something
movie.
offering? No, no, no. That's burnt offerings I was thinking of.
Yeah, it was
Oh,
the
I know
devil.
what
The
you're
devil
talking
was it?
about.
Yeah, yeah.
Something of the devil. Mark of the devil?
Hmm. Good, good.
God,
I
I'm
knew
gonna
it.
look it up.
Yeah,
Young
look it up.
Jamie over here.
Young Jamie, look it up.
When you were mentioning Ray Harryhausen, I was thinking Clash of the Titans. I think
All
Medusa might
yeah,
have been the first thing that tripped me out. That scared the
yeah,
shit out of
yeah.
me.
Yo,
That
you know
Medusa.
what? Yeah, good call on that Medusa for sure. Cause yo, I rewatched Clash of the Titans not too long ago, and it was like I felt like I was 5. I just couldn't,
Yeah.
I'm like, my
Oh,
brain
it's
couldn't
great.
handle it. It was up
Yeah.
on Netflix, and I'm just like, oh my God. I'm like, I remember all this.
And the new one. Nothing did nothing for me. As antiquated, and when I went to show my son it, like we have to watch the old one. I know the
Yeah.
new one has all like the new effects, but it doesn't have that same charm.
But
The
I think
Devil's
that's
Reign,
Devil's Reign, right?
yes.
There was a lot of stuff in those old 70s horror flicks that were always very disturbing. I think it was the mixture of that weird psychedelic music, a lot of that
yeah.
like weird, like those weird hits, and then like the quick zooms and stuff that were really kind of weird and trippy that would freak me out. I remember there was an anthology called The Monster Club that had Vincent Price and John Carradine in it.
Joe Bob Briggs just did a show on, well, not just, maybe a
Oh
season
yeah, he
ago.
did.
On
He
that,
did an episode on it. Yeah.
so there's an episode of that where a director is scouting a location and he goes to this town that's like be on this road that goes between these hedges and it's but through this fog, and he finds this town, and it's this little town with these people in it, and but there he doesn't see many of them. He'll see one here, one there, and they look really weird, drawn and skinny and small. And it turns out to be a town filled with ghouls. And when he goes in there, this color is very desaturated and everything, right? When he comes in from the real world and he goes in there, it's like everything almost looks almost black and white. It's just very pale, a lot of flat tones. And that one particular story freaks me out because there's this great scene where they find this book that this priest had kept logs of what had happened to the town. And the story was that one ghoul came and the priest found him eating at a grave site, and the priest took him into the church and tried to save him and feed him and take care of him. And the ghoul winds up escaping and leaving and comes back to the town with like 100 other ghouls, and they wind up taking over to the town. And the director finds out at the end of the movie that all these people that he sees, these are the ghouls living in the town.
Oh
And
wow.
it's got such a kind of old, funny, cliche ending. He escapes the town. He calls for help. The police find him on the road. He gets in the police car. Police car drives him back to the town to see what's going on. And when they arrive at the cops, the guy's like, "Don't go back to the town." And the police stop and they turn around and they're ghouls too, right? Like they smile and you see their teeth and they're ghouls. So
Mhm.
that's the ending. But when I saw that when I was younger, and you see the artwork of the ghouls coming into the town as the guys flipping the pages of the book. It's really super well done and very creepy. And the music they play as they're telling the story, it's real frightening. So little things like that always just sat with me. Whether or not they scared me, where I like jumped out of my seat or whatever, it's kind of hard for me to remember that. Jaws probably did that to me most of all when I was a kid. But a lot of those other things, like those psychedelic 70s movies or all those other creepy old horror movies were ones that just made me sit and think and say, that's really weird.
That the
That's really
first I'm sorry.
no.
I was gonna say the first movie when I think about it that did that to me was Pieces. I remember just
Yeah.
being I
Yeah.
remember being
How
a
old
kid
were
and
you when you saw that? That
yeah,
movie's fucked
exactly.
up, man.
All right.
Mhm.
So I remember because mom and pop shops, we would rent shit. And Friday the 13th, Halloween, all that stuff was fine. And then one day you get to like Pieces and you're just like, yo, this
This
movie
is
is
another level.
Yo, it's
Yeah.
another level. It was just a whole nother level. And I remember me and my cousins would watch the movie and like sometimes like we would like kind of like look but not at the screen if we were like, you know what I mean? Like if it kind of creeped us out. And that movie in particular, so that was 82. I must have rented it. I mean, if I was 4, maybe I was like 6, 7, 8, like just really fucking young watching Pieces.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
okay.
And yo, next level. That and like Maniac when like fucking
Oh
Savini's
yeah.
head gets blown off were
Yeah.
the two things where I was just like, whoa. I'm like, I need to backtrack. I don't know. Like it just made
Right.
Friday.
Maniac is so disturbing. I mean, as
Yeah.
a kid, it's just dripping with every aspect of it is disturbing.
Sure.
So if I just got a couple more questions.
Sure, man.
If I gave you $5 million, what kind of movie would you make?
I'd make
Which
a $1 million
superhero?
movie and put the other four in my pocket. No, it's funny. I've had that question posed to me before. I think when you watch my films, I would make the same kinds of films, but it would definitely be on a larger scale. I think something that we do well at is that we cheat at is we make our productions look really high budget with our locations. Um,
The end of
especially
Robot. The end of Robot was like, I don't want to like really give it away, but like the end of Robot, I was just like, what the fuck am I like? That's pretty cool.
yeah, yeah, it's that's the movie magic, man. It's the illusion, and I think that what we do well is we're able to make very low budgets look high budget. Um, it's funny. So I sometimes think that working with a really large budget would almost take away some of that independent filmmaking magic, that guerrilla filmmaking stuff that you do. So for instance, a friend of mine, Rodrigo Bustamante, and myself built the time machine for Soothsayer. Um, the time that went into that, the planning, the fun that we had, drinking beers, building that thing, discussing it, designing it, taking pictures of us working on it. That time was so great. And if you think with a bigger budget, I probably would have turned that over to some prop department and never been involved in any of it, right? And somebody else would have built it, and who knows? I'm sure it would have came out great, but it's those little things like that that you think the money would probably
It,
more go into. And
as I'm watching, Soothsayer, and that part comes on with like the dials and like the lights and all that. In my head, I'm thinking like, yo, what the fuck did this guy get? I just thought you found like some like random ass shit because
yeah,
it's
no,
very eye catching. Where I'm just like, what is this thing that they like? I'm like, was he driving on the side of the road and saw like a like
yeah, no.
it
we
looks
were
great.
uh we were sitting in a production meeting, and I said, and I have a notepad. I go, yeah, the time machine's going to look something like this, and I drew essentially what it looked like, and I said, this is what I'm thinking for it. The idea of the time machine kind of came from those old 1950s movies where they'd be in a lab and there'd be some big, console with dials and buttons on it. Star Trek, The Bridge, right? All the big buttons and screens. And I said, I love that. That's so old school sci-fi. Like there's things working here, right? Despite the fact that like technology now continues to get smaller and smaller. Like I like the giant knobs and the levers and stuff, right? I love that stuff. So I drew it, and then when it came time to actually build it, I went out and I bought some large panel board cardboard, and I said I'm going to make it out of cardboard first because I want to make sure it could fit in my car, it could fit through the doorways, because I thought about transporting it and setting it to set and location. I said I don't want to wind up the day comes and we go to pick this thing up and now I can't get it into the car. So we did some measurements, and I at home I drew it, I cut it, I built it, and I just taped it together into a three-dimensional object. And we've got photos of it and everything. And I brought it to my friend's house, and my friend Rhodey's house. I said, "This is what we're going to make." And he said, "Let's go to Home Depot." We bought some wood, came back, and just we had the prototype, and then we built the actual machine. And his expertise was in the electronics of it all, so we put an actuator in there and the moving clocks and all that kind of stuff. So put the lights in. He did all the wiring for that, and so the whole experience of doing that was amazing and fun and creative. If you have $5 million budget, that doesn't happen, right? I'm just kind of like, here, make this, so.
You would just get 4.5 to Nicolas Cage and just take the rest for the movie. That's
Right,
all.
right.
But so all right, in the movie, you're talking about like, technology getting smaller, which is true. So even though the kids watching a fucking movie on a phone is the most mind-blowing thing of all time. Now, let's talk about like the screening. Like where could people watch this? Like how long before it's like actually streaming? I know that you're doing some screenings. You said like in New Jersey.
Yeah,
So and here's the thing that you also mentioned as you play that character in the movie. I love going to the movies. I still do. I love sitting there. I don't give a
yeah,
fuck if I'm the only person there or with a whole bunch of other people. Like when I saw Barbarian, we were by ourselves. When I
yeah,
saw
yeah.
Terrifier 2, it was like a packed crowd. So both of those things have merits. But yeah, that just the popcorn, just I never fell out of love with just going to the fucking movies. It is fun occasionally. Like if I want to watch The Whale, maybe I'll rent it because it doesn't feel like something that I need to see in a theater, but
Right.
something that I feel like is like a cinematic experience. Like
Hmm.
I will always choose just going to the fucking theaters. So what's the release on this going to be like?
Yeah, so we're looking for a limited theatrical run right now. We're in talks with a couple of distributors to see what they can make happen. I feel that this film particularly should be seen on the big screen. The whole theme of the wraparound story actually pertains to why it's so important to go to the movies and that experience, that collective experience that you get when you're sitting with an audience. And there's particular movies, and it's usually horror movies or it's action movies or it's even comedies. Dramas, not so much, but the rest are really great to see with a huge crowd. You love to laugh together, you love to scream together, you love to applaud stuff blowing up together. That experience of going to the movies is is so important. So that's why we are arranging screenings. We premiered in the Cranford Theater in Cranford, New Jersey, to a sold out crowd of over 200. It was fantastic. We are following that up with a screening at Smod Castle Cinemas in the Atlantic Highlands. If you guys don't know, that belongs to Ernie O'Donnell and Kevin Smith. They've taken it over and they're supporting independent film in New Jersey by
Awesome.
screening films there. So that was really great. We screened there. Splinter was part of the Smod Castle Film Festival. It was their first year that they did it last year, and we got to go see the film festival. Got to meet Kevin and Ernie, and it looks and sounds great. The theater looks amazing, and just if you're a filmmaker and you're independent and you want your film to be seen and you're in Jersey, reach out to Smod Castle because they do a wonderful job. So we're going to be doing that on April 22nd. We're doing an early afternoon showing. We're screening at 1:30. And then afterwards, we're going right down the street for an after party to kind of hang out with everybody and just talk film, man, and talk movies. And like we used to when you were kids and you came out of the movie and you and your friend
Yeah.
would go and just, what did you think about this part? What was your favorite part? What, yeah, I can't believe he died. I can't believe that one didn't, so that's the plan.
You
And
taking it to festivals and whatnot, and what's that hustle like? How's
Yeah,
that
so
whole
individually,
circuit?
all the shorts have actually been in festivals already.
Hmm.
Soothsayer won a Best Actor and a Best Sci-Fi Film, and I think I won a Best Director for Soothsayer at the Cutting Room Film Festival. Splinter won the Best Feature Homegrown Kevin Smith Award, the first ever at the Garden State Film Festival last year, as well as a Best Actor for Jim Thalman. Haunted is shown at the Garden State Film Festival on March 25th. And Robot won Best Editing and was nominated for Best Sci-Fi Short at the Austin Revolution Film Festival. So they've all kind of made their rounds to a bunch of film festivals. And the feature as a whole, I don't know that I'm going to submit them to any, with the exception of maybe the Macabre Fair Film Festival down in Tennessee, which I have a personal connection there. And one of our executive producers runs that festival, and we go way back, and I might just give it to those guys as kind of like an opening night film. We'll do that. But yeah, after the showing in Smod Castle, there's a couple of other theaters that we're looking to nail down. I don't have really firm answers from them yet, so I don't want to call them out just yet. But we're trying to get into a few more theaters, and hopefully our distribution, if that comes through, they'll be able to get us a larger theatrical run, and we're getting some more theaters because I do feel like this is a movie that belongs on the screen.
Hmm.
how do we promote it for you though? Like how do we get the word out? Like how could we help you?
Well, we're on social media, Theater of Terror. We have a website, theaterofterror.net. I have created an event page for the Smod Castle screening. It's Return to the Theater of Terror at Smod Castle Cinemas, and I could share that with you guys. If you could share that event page, that would be great. We're really trying to get into our premiere in Cranford was great for the Northern New Jersey and New York friends, and now we're trying to reach out to the Southern New Jersey, Pennsylvania fans, get them to turn out for the Smod Castle screening. So if you could share the event page and
Yeah.
trailers or whatever, I could
Yeah,
share that stuff with you guys.
whatever, yeah, whatever you need for sure, just send it to me and we will. Now real quick, like in closing, because we're talking about anthologies, and man, I'm telling you, from Mortuary Collection, Nightmare Cinema, there's a bunch of really good ones that have been out. But also like the TV shows, Tales from the Crypt, everything to do. What are some anthology stories through fucking the beginning of time till today that really stick out? Because to me, I'm always gonna go, the two that always like hit me are Tales from the Crypt, when John Aston it like they're in like the insane, they're doing like the Shakespeare thing. John Lovitz is there.
Yes,
Like
Yeah.
that
yes.
one was fucking great. The Raft, of course, from Creep Show
Fuck
2.
yeah.
Those are the two that are just like off the top of the dome and shit. Like I don't, Langan, have you got any?
I was gonna say the raft. That's like probably my penultimate one. I don't know. I can just know
Okay.
it's like the back of my hand really
Okay.
stuck with me. Yeah.
Is there anything for you, Tom?
If we're talking creep show, it's probably the crate. Um,
Oh yeah.
yeah, it's probably the crate, and probably for a mixture of both the film and the comic book version of that too was really cool. Because at the end they show that crate there in the water, the bubbles are coming out, like he's still alive in the water. So that's really cool. In the film, it breaks open, doesn't it? Right?
When I don't know if it breaks open. I think you just like see the eyes and then it goes to the comic. I
Yeah,
could be wrong though.
I'm gonna look at that again. I almost think in the film they showed the crate open under the water, but I could be wrong. I could be wrong about it. Maybe that's just my imagination saying that would have been a cool,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, that's one
I
that stands out. An old Twilight Zone episode. There's a few old Zone episodes that I really, really love. One of them for me that really stands out. There's the obvious one with Burgess Meredith, where his glasses breaks, and now he knows he'll never be able to read. That one is a favorite, but I really like the one where the guy's got the doomsday bunker, and his neighbors want him to let them in, and they were always making fun of him for having the bunker. And then when the air sirens go off, they want him to let him in, and they finally break down the door and break in, and the whole thing was like a drill. And he realizes, his neighbors all walk away in shame, like after everything that they said and accused him of. That's a really good one too. But I could, like I said, it's like asking me for favorites. If we sat here
Yeah.
long enough, I could name 100 of them.
I
Well,
gotta
I
throw in one more. I just thought it too. Remember the Twilight Zone, the movie, the boy that the family's all scared of
Yeah,
when he
yeah,
erased the sister's mouth. Man, that shit
yes,
freaked me out like a
yes.
motherfucker.
That's
And the
another great
gigantic
one.
rabbit.
Yes, that's a great one.
I totally forgot. So last year, my band put out an album called "Something to Tide You Over," and I had my friend take the picture. He dunked his head in a hot tub, and we took a picture because I love that "Something to Tide You Over"
Yeah,
with
that's great.
Ted Danson. So, but
Yes, yes.
hey man, thanks for hanging out with us, and thanks for
Yeah,
sending us
man.
the movie. We loved it. I'm a big fan now.
Thank you so much, guys. I
Yeah.
appreciate the feedback and just chat with you guys about it. It's always fun as a filmmaker to just talk about stuff that you liked and what you guys liked about it. That's what's important to me.
I'm just glad it wasn't terrible. I wasn't sure. You never know. I'm like, holy shit. And you watch it. Wasn't I texting you? I was like, yo, this is
Yeah.
pretty fucking good.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah,
Anytime you got something going on, man, feel free, reach out. But anyway,
yeah,
we can
hang
All
it
do
right.
it, man.
for sure.
Yeah.
Anything that
Appreciate
you
it.
need me to put on, anything that you need me to attach to the episode, just like email it to me or message it to me. And Tom,
Cool.
man, thanks for talking.
All right,
Thank
man.
you.
Thank you, fellas. Thanks very much.
Let
Have a
it,
great weekend, man.
let it.
Okay, right.
Take care.